From Afar by Jennifer Olmstead. Volume 4 in the Virginia Southern Point collection. It's fiction you wish was reality. Copyright 2023, Jennifer Olmstead and Tishan Press. All rights reserved worldwide. Dedication for Patrick Emery. Narrated by Christy Lynn. From Afar. Chapter 2. I love you, Isabel whispered to Jack as he slid sideways off her and back to his side of the bed, their naked bodies glossed with sweat. Southern Point's midsummer humidity posed a challenge for even the latest, most efficient HVAC system, set at the coolest setting. The converted barn that Jack and Isabel Christoff called home featured one of the oldest, least efficient systems still in operation. A boiler-powered heating unit and several antiquated plug-in window air conditioning units that produced more noise than chilled air. Jack's fascination with the inner workings of the boiler-powered heater and his sentimental attachment to the window AC units stemmed from his memories of summers at his grandparents' mountainside cabin. "I dig everything about these old box coolers," he told her. "I swear, I'm coming back as one in my next life. Love me? Love my old clunky AC unit." His affection for the outmoded system meant replacing it with a more energy-efficient unit was far into the future. For now, the exertion of their early morning sexual antics meant changing the sheets, blasting the portable fans on high, and reveling in their stubborn happiness. "Did you hear me?" she demanded. "I love you." "This old dog?" he asked her. "Yep, you. My old dog. Your AKC Westminster material. And, not just the Studley part." "Stop. You're nuts." "Nuts?" she screamed before she laughed. "Exactly." She loved his nuts, his dick, and everything else about him, bar one thing. His nighttime habit of standing in front of the open refrigerator and sampling leftovers from a single fork, poking and tasting and repeating from multiple containers. She fumed over his fridge raids, but measuring that against his good qualities, she remained smitten. Jack stood 6 feet tall and weighed in at a solid 200 pounds. He had a set of slender, expressive lips and a melt-your-panties-off smile. His defined nose, inherited from his father and grandfather, took up precisely 1/3 of his square-jawed face, and 2 deep brown eyes stared right on through whomever they held in their sight. He'd gone mostly gray a few years earlier, at age 31, leaving a thick crop of slate-tinted curls from the top of a modified military fade to dip onto his forehead in between his compulsive attempts to hand-comb them off his face. She had loved Jack since their first date at a small restaurant on the Virginia Beach oceanfront, 2 days after their initial encounter at the Southern Point tractor supply store. She was there buying bargain rose bushes for her first house, a small cottage at the south end of the Virginia Beach oceanfront. He was there for a propane tank refill. "You don't look like a farmer," he said as she stood behind him in the checkout line, regretting her wardrobe choice of a dull gray hoodie and running shorts as soon as they made eye contact. "Not yet," she answered, "but someday." "I like you already," he replied. He smiled at her, and that smile slammed right into her gut. "Oh, please like me," she thought. "Make sure you plant those soon," he said, pointing to the plants in her shopping cart, "so the roots establish before the cold sets in. It's almost September." He checked out and left the store without looking at her or speaking to her again. She was crushed, stomped to dust. The waning red rose bushes in her cart a sad consolation for the excitement of her brief exchange with the man in the checkout line. Wheeling her shopping cart to her nearly new Land Rover, she wondered who he was and how he had vanished without a trace. As she pulled open the dark green Rover's rear hatch, a large hand snaked around the side of the vehicle. "Allow me to help you with those." "Thank you, God," she whispered, recognizing the man's voice. "What's that?" the man asked, stepping into full view. His presence was high noon sun, warming up a dismal day. "I said," she fibbed, I thought you had gone." "I couldn't leave you to prick your finger on one of those roses and fall asleep in the woods somewhere before I got your name," he said. "I might not find you." He tipped an imaginary hat. "My horse, he's not very good with directions." "Okay, that is the most insanely original pickup line ever," she said, her body and soul blushing and unfolding for him like the rose blossoms he placed in her open vehicle. "That's good, because it's all I've got," he countered. "My name's Jack. Full disclosure, I'm only helping you with these damn roses in the hopes you'll be obliged to reward me in some undetermined yet incomparable way." "Done," she said. 48 hours later, they met for drinks at the Spinnaker Hotel's blazing boardwalk fire pit. "End of season or off season? The only time of year I can stand the Virginia Beach oceanfront," he said. "You wouldn't believe the evil that lurks within the walls of some of these buildings. It ain't sand pails and saltwater taffy." "Are you serious? Down here in the land of cherry slushies and Midwestern vacationers?"
"Unfortunately, I am."
He told her about his job as a police detective and the cases he worked on, involving crimes against children, mostly trafficking and abuse. "I had no idea that it happened here to any, significant extent," she said.
"It's well established and sickeningly lucrative. The public doesn't hear about a lot of it due to the confidentiality issues with minors, and because many cases go to the feds for prosecution. That takes most of the action out of our jurisdiction during the prosecution and penalty phase process,"
he answered.
"But the victims? Kids. Even toddlers. It's hard sometimes for me to separate happy hour and beach volleyball from the darker stuff. I think that's why at this point in my life, I'm craving a less dense population experience. Simple math. Fewer people, more plants, equals less completely avoidable pain and suffering."
"Out west?" she asked, her heart fractured from meeting this remarkable man who appeared to be planning an escape from her town and her life before she had the chance to prove she was worth staying for.
"No, south. I want to move to Southern Point. It's half an hour from town, but it might as well be another state. Fields, streams, deer, and bobcats. I'm there. I'm a country boy."
"Me too," she squealed.
"You're a boy? Because you do not look like a boy."
"I mean, I would love to live out there too," she sighed. "Someday."
"Let's drink to pre-someday," he said.
They ordered Manhattans, Jack's choice. Leaning back on her cushy wicker chair on the patio, Isabel gulped down her drink without pause. "I love the harsh edge of the smoky liquor," she bluffed, working to keep a straight face, followed by the bittersweet vermouth aftertaste.
"Wow. Yeah. Yep, that about sums it up. Except for any thoughts you may have on the extra kick from the Angostura bitters or the bourbon-soaked Bing cherry at the bottom of the glass."
I'll contemplate that for a bit. Let's get another," she said. "I promise to sip it carefully, like you're doing with yours." He hailed the server and ordered 2 more Manhattans, along with more substantial shrimp cocktails and an antipasto tray. They ate and drank and talked about dogs. "Okay," she said, tilting her head in contemplation. "I see you with the lab, maybe."
"9? No way. GSD all day long," he answered.
"GSD? German Shorthair. No, German Shepherd. German Shepherd dog," she answered. "Duh, you're a cop. Why didn't I get that?"
"Well, you wouldn't necessarily. Not everyone in the department is a major fan of German Shepherds."
"You are, though. You're all in on the breed, right?"
"Oh, yeah. I'm all the way in. They're complicated creatures. They dislike most people, tolerate some, and bond with only a few. I can relate to that. But if they attach to you, if they choose to accept you, it's an honor to be their human, their partner."
"That's amazing," she said, dipping a shrimp in pink sauce and popping it in her mouth.
"This is so good."
She smiled and leaned back in her chair.
"Enjoying yourself?"
he asked, holding her gaze until she squirmed from the escalating sexual tension between them. "Oh," Yes, indeed, she said, squinting one eye so she could keep her focus on him. How about you, Jack Christoff? Are you relaxed now? She took a sip from her glass. He leaned in.
Relaxed? My dear, if I were any more relaxed, I'd need Depends.
She burst out laughing, spitting amber bourbon and blood-red vermouth all over her cream sweater and onto his dark blue shirt.
Damn, he said. That's an impressive reach. What else can you do?
I can take this off, she said, pulling at the sleeves of her sweater to expose her shoulders. Sorry, did I say that? Do that?
Yes, you did, and I'm holding you to it. He smiled at her. But not here.
He leaned into her again and whispered,
When we're alone, I'm selfish that way. Don't like to share that, and those I deem precious.
You're killing me, she shrieked, a little bit drunk and going out of her mind from wanting him to crawl on top of her right there on the patio. He read her mind.
Let's get out of here, Isabel Bryant.
Isa, she whispered. Everyone who's close to me calls me Isa.
Well, I'm going to get close to you, Isa Bryant. Guaranteed.
Show me your badge, officer, she commanded after they paid their restaurant tab. Jack laughed under his breath as he opened his wallet to expose the badge while reciting his rank and ID number. Can I touch it? She asked.
Sure, he replied. Satisfied?
He asked as she ran her fingers over the metal shield. No, she answered. But I'm sure I will be soon.
Okay. Let's get you out of here before we're escorted out by security.
Isabel left the Rover behind in the hotel's parking garage and agreed to Jack driving them straight to her cottage, where they faced off against the shadows in her dusky living room. The emboldening effects of her happy hour cocktails were fading, leaving her with no more innuendos or sarcasm to lay down between them. Standing less than a foot apart from Jack, she was 19 again, unsure of how to reach for him for the first time, what to ask for, what to give him.
I know it's summer, but how about I make us a tiny fire, just for looks?
He offered, buying her time to clear her head. He knelt on the fireplace's brick hearth and gathered 2 logs and some loose bark for the bottom of her log rack, vestiges from the previous winter.
Where's your clothes dryer?
He asked after building a lean-to from the logs and tinder on her fireplace grate. Thrown by the question, she pointed at the hallway. It's, on the right. She surveyed the dim room for her purse, which contained a vial of pepper spray. Before she could find it, he returned to her with a handful of dryer lint.
Best kindling around, he said.
Are you kidding? She asked.
Not at all, he answered,
kneeling again to light the fire. It was either the curve of the nape of his neck at the top of his shirt, or the way his upper back flexed as he blew a puff of air into the fire's kindling that made her forget her insecurities and sit down next to him. She stared straight ahead into the fire as she peeled off her sweater and tossed it onto a chair, leaving her in a strapless white lace bra. I'm out of talk, she said.
Me too,
he agreed, pulling his shirt off and placing a hand on her bare shoulder. His touch burned through her, a second fire in the dark summer night. She ran her fingers through his hair as he pulled her on his lap.
I've waited for you,
he said, his hand tracing the contours of her cheek.
For a long time.
Their kiss roused and calmed her, scrambling her brain and reordering the universe all at once. As she reached her arms around his neck, their honeyed first exchange melted into a blur of stroking and clutching and riding each other until dawn. I love you, she blurted out as they lay in front of the waning fire, expecting him to make a panicked dash to the front door and out of her life.
I love you too,
he answered firmly.
I guess I'm going to have a long talk with Mom and ask Dad for permission, he said, followed by a dramatic sigh.
No, you won't, she answered, followed by a genuine sigh. Dad is gone, and my, mother. The last word left a stitch of acid in her mouth.
I am so sorry. I'm such a shit.
I accept your apology, and you're not. She stroked his shoulder. It's okay. I've still got a family, a grand one. A little less than traditional. It's a story for later. He held her tighter.
Again, I apologize.
Let's not talk about that now, Jack. Let's spend the rest of our lives like this. With his multitude of appealing attributes, Jack could have coasted a bit, been an occasional, even frequent jerk, a flaming asshole. But he was neither. He was kind, unfailingly kind, good-hearted, a sweetheart. Her sweetheart. Except for the days that he testified against the people who hurt children. CEDs, cross-exam days. That's what Jack called his trial days. When the district attorney was ready to present the strongest part of a criminal case to the jury, Jack took the stand. As he prepped for each court appearance, the veil lowered. His chestnut brown eyes would darken to black, impossible to decipher. He shut down physically, folding in on himself, and far away from her. Early in their relationship, she had tried the tactic of comforting him, drawing him out and away from his pending trial testimony and perpetrator confrontation by chatting about her real estate clients, her girlfriends, anything other than Jack's looming day in court.
You've got to stop,
he told her one of those mornings as he moved from the bathroom to their closet, freshly showered and shaved, a knotted towel hugging his hips. His abruptness stung her. Fine, she mumbled. I was just trying to help. Tears welled in her eyes.
No, he said. Don't do it. Don't crash over this. I get it. I get what you're trying for, and I thank you for it. I need to let myself feel the hatred, dwell inside it. I have to, for the kids. I can't dull down the edge of the horror they've seen, what's happened to them.
Why? Why can't you find a place for it? Some emotional distance?
Because I'm what holds together their chance for fairness, for some possibility of recovery, a future where the pieces fit together, makes sense. That's the justice in it.
Jack, how can you be objective like that?
That's the lawyer in you, Isa. I'm not a lawyer. I'm called as a witness. I must be factual, truthful, and I will be. But screw the objectivity. I leave that to others. I know what I saw and who I found at the scene, what the victim told me. As important, what they showed me, with their wounds, through their tears, through their silence, where their pain comes from. Do you think the shithole who did this, who stole a kid from his family's backyard, who locked him in a closet and raped him for 3 weeks is going to be objective? Fuck no. He and his lawyer are going to do everything they can to beat the charge. He filmed the rapes to sell to dark web porn sites and to get more clients, turn a profit, and he'll do it again. He will do it again. If my testimony makes me a child's advocate, then trust me, I can live with that. Despite his plainclothes status, Jack opted for a full Class A navy blue uniform for court appearances, proud of the years of work that led to his assignment to detective. It had all begun with a uniform. His brooding ritual of prepping for CEDs extended well beyond starching, ironing, and dressing in his uniform. After leaving the house, he would sit in his standard-issue unmarked sedan for half an hour or more before starting it up and driving to the courthouse. Isabel watched him from the house as he sorted through documents, scribbled notes, and talked to himself about what she assumed were potential questions for the prosecuting and defense attorneys, and his subsequent answers. She didn't try to run emotional interference for him on his CEDs again. She accepted it. It was who he was. He was who she loved.